Hey guys, Jalen here from TBIInfinitey, bring you guys another Buddyfight deck profile, and I'm sorry that it took so much time to get the Driven to Disorder, and all the time that we didn't spend on Rainbow Striker, but trust me, I'm not bullshitting this time. We're gonna keep trying to get content out. So in any case, before I get onto the deck profile, I'd like to give a huge shout out to Silk Road Cafe, at least the card shot in the back, run by Darren Choi, a decent friend of ours that runs the shop in the back. It's always got sleeves, boxes, singles. Like he runs a really tight ship around there, and it's really great. Just great food in the cafe too, so you don't have to leave. You don't have to go far at all, so you could be eating and hanging out with friends there. It's if you live in the New York City area and you want a consistent great locals to go to, please go to Silk Road Cafe. Link in the top description to their Facebook page where you can find them. Anyway, let me get on to the deck profile. Of course, we have our flag and buddy. Our buddy is Heavenly Crystal Dragon, Aldo Athora. Obviously, the Overturn Athora, 828 size 3, 3-gauge top deck soul. It cannot be destroyed, and you cannot take damage by your opponent's card effects. It's Overturn. You can only use it when when a card would be attacked. You pay a gauge and discard a card, and then all attacks are redirected to Athora. And for every attack that, for every card that attacks, they take one burn damage. And Athora cannot be destroyed for the turn when this happens. So, one big misconception is if people link, because this happened while I was at the tournament at Silk Road Cafe where I got top 4 and I lost to Auto DD twice. Shout out to my boy Steven. Only dude who made me lose all day because I faced 3 TE. And except for TBI's Chris, the other two, which was TBI Jake and someone else playing Thunder Empire, I 2-0'd them, and then I 2-1 TBI Chris. But then Steven, he beat me up. But in our top 4 match, he tried to link attack with like his whole board. Like he had an item, he's playing Auto DD, he linked for like 4 monsters in his item. It's because he was trying to get around the burn for Athora. But the whole thing, the way it works, is that it's similar to the old Demon Lord Impact World End, where when that card said, when a Demon Lord attacks, get a soul into it face down. So the way it worked, so Aldo's effect works similarly in the way it burns, because it's when a card attacks. So if you link attack, you still take burn for each card that attacked, not for each attack that happens. That's a misconception, and it's unfortunately only in the Japanese Q&A, and so it's not in the English because they take too long, so people don't understand that. And also the English translation does not help with that because it's not exactly accurate, similar to Leviton's equip cost. So in any case, just wanted to clear that up. Sorry that took so long. Let me move on to the rest of the deck. We have 4 copies of Merrill, 2/1 size 0. Whenever when a Prism Dragon is destroyed in the field, so it could be itself or a Thor or anything, you get a gauge and draw. And it's a hard one to return, so regardless, it's just really, really good because I don't like Rizzling still. I know Rizzling's still okay, but I still like getting the gauge off Merrill much better than using Rizzling. I've tested Rizzling, I still like Merrill more. Then we have 4 copies of Shelter, 2/1 size 0, and when it enters the field, I can discard a card. If I do, I get to search for a defense card from my deck to my hand and shuffle my deck. So it's just really great to grab your items, your defense cards. It's just I can grab my set spell like Auto Ground. Just really, really great card. Adds consistency. And then 2 copies of our newest card, the 828 size 3 Provenance Crystal Dragon, Athora Adamant. Athora Adamant has double attack, soul guard, and counter attack, and it has the call cost of calling on top of a Prism Dragon size 3, and you get a top deck soul and pays 2 gauge. And all cards in your field cannot be destroyed by opponent's card effects. You cannot take damage by your opponent's card effects, and they cannot reduce the damage you the damage you deal to them by card effects. And as counter, you can call it during your opponent's turn by paying its call cost. It's just really, really good for like when basically as a shield, a 2-gauge shield when your 3's at low soul, or even if you just want to do it when they're at full soul, just so they kind of miss an attack, and then you have more soul to work with for his counter attack. So just really great card. But he does need another 3, so that's why I choose to only play 2. I might bump him to 3, but we'll have to see where that goes. Then we have the 616 size 3 Jade Crystal Dragon Chartreuse. Pay gauge, top deck soul guard, and it burns your opponent at the end of the battle if a Prism Dragon monster is attacked. And its ability only activates once per turn. It becomes a size 0 when it's on the left and right if you have a Prism Dragon size 3 in your center. So it's basically just a backup 3 or a 0, whatever I need him for. There was one time where I did evolve Admirator on top of him when he was in the center when I couldn't get another 3, so that was also pretty good. But regardless, this card is just great for its burn and just also being a size 0. Then we have 4 copies of Rainbow Gem Crystal Dragon Kirschgeist. Kirschgeist is 727, size 3, 3 gauge, top deck soul, and it cannot be destroyed or returned to hand by your opponent's monster effects. And at the beginning of your opponent's final phase, you can destroy up to 2 cards in your opponent's field, destroy them, and then draw and deal damage to your opponent equal to the amount of cards you destroyed by this effect. And it's double attack and soul guard. Absolutely great card. As long as you can keep him on field, he just can be really devastating to your opponent. You destroy 2 cards, you draw 2 cards, you deal them damage. If you have Crystal Greaves, it just deals more damage. It's just a really great card. And then for the last of size 3s, of course, we have 4 copies of my buddy. I forgot to also say double attack and soul guard, but regardless, now you know that. Then we have 2 copies of Aldo Ground. It's a free set. It has defense, so Shelter can search it, and it gives all your Prism Dragons on your field 1k. When your opponents deal damage by one of your card effects during their turn, you get a gauge and draw. You can only set 1 Aldo Ground. So basically, once I have 1 set, I don't want to see the other one, so that's why I only play 2. And it's searchable, so if I do need it in certain matchups, well, not like what matchups would you need it specifically. It's more like if I get it, I get it. If I don't, it's not really a big deal. Then we have 2 copies of Asterism Effect. Really crazy card that people don't remember because people only use it as a Requiem counter, but it's got a lot of relevance now with Prisms, and I really love it. It's really saved me a lot. But as for what it is, it has a cast cost of discard 2 cards, and you can only cast it if you have a Prism Dragon on your field. Counter, you can choose between one of 2 effects. For this turn, either all your monsters cannot be destroyed, or until the beginning of your next turn, you cannot lose the fight. And if your life is at 0 when this happens, if it stays 0 by the time your turn ends, then you lose. But if you do gain your life back up, you do not lose. So I have used both effects. The preventing the monsters from being destroyed effect I've used a lot with Kirschgeist, because then Kirschgeist gives you 2 draws most of the time, so then I'll be able to replenish the hand back easily and keep my Kirschgeist alive, so I can get them off. I have used the save myself effect from losing against Polanco. He will never get over it, and I won't explain the play. So let's move on. Then we have 2 copies of Heavenly Crystal Awakening. You can only cast this card once per game, and you can only cast it if you've used Overturn. You get top deck 3 gauge and 3 draw. It is absolutely amazing when I do my Overturn. Just getting all the gauge and a lot of cards in hand off of 1 card, it's just super amazing. It's really dumb, honestly. Then we have 3 copies of Crystallization Phenomenon. You can only cast it when the monster in your center has been destroyed, and you can pay a life, draw a card, and then you rest and nullify a card's abilities for the rest of the turn. I use this a lot with Kirschgeist, so I can say rest bots and nullify its abilities, and then I can destroy it during the final phase with his ability because its abilities have been nullified. I love doing that. It's falling out of more it's falling into obscurity because of way too many cards now being able to get around nullifying and resting, like Auto Deity Army, but I still like this card. Then we have 4 copies of Gemologist. If I'm at 6 or more life, search a Prism Dragon size 3, and also put the top card of my deck into the gauge. Amazing search card. Prismatic Bless. It's just a great consistency card. It's basically a reverse X-Link. You can only cast during your opponent's turn, and you look at the top card of your deck equal to the amount of times your opponent attack. You put 1 to gauge, 2 to hand, you gain a life, and if you have more, if you checked more than basically 3, then you put the rest to the bottom. Brush Upper, one of Prism's oldest and best defense cards. It basically prevents a door from leaving the field once, or your size 3 basically. A Prism, well, a Prism in general. All you need to cast it is a Prism Dragon on your center. I mean, on your field basically, and you protect it. And if you're at 6 or more life, you get a gauge. Then we have 3 copies of Phase Seal Chain, or foil. I love that. Probably one of my favorite defense cards in the deck. You may only cast this card at the end of the third you can only cast this at the end of the 3rd battle during your opponent's turn. I don't know why that was so hard for me to say. And end the attack phase. It's just really great against, of course, all these offensive decks out here. So just, of course, ending their attack phase too short, and then using Prismatic Bless right after to get 2 cards in hand and a gauge is just really great. Then we have 4 copies of Crystal Crescent Greaves, the newest Greaves, and I love these things. It has a quick cost of pay, put a Prism Dragon for your drop zone into its soul, and it has Soul Guard, gauge, and a life, 0/0/5, and all the abilities of your Prism Dragon monsters cannot be nullified, and they all get plus 2,000 power and defense. And at the beginning of your opponent's final phase, if you have a Prism Dragon in your center, deal 2 damage to your opponent. So, you know, putting them in more range for that sweet impact is always great, but also it's just really strong because it also gives all of my Prism Dragons 2k, and it does prevent them from being nulled, so helps with all those nullifiers and stuff. Then we have 1 copy of the original Cristiano Crystal Shoe. After the tournament, I did add 2, but just for the sake of keeping the deck list the same of how I had it when I went to the tournament, just in general, I played 1 Cristiano Crystal Shoe. You can only cast if you haven't taken any damage during your opponent. You can only cast it during your opponent's final phase if you didn't take any damage, if you have a Prism Dragon size 3 in the center, and if they're at 4 or less life. Pay 2 gauge and deal them 4 damage, and they can't do anything about it unless they counter gain life to it. Just really strong cards still. And then, of course, the last cards in the deck, 2 impacts, Direct, Dynamic, Diamond Overhead. Basically the same clause as Cristiano, but they don't have to be a 4 or less life. It costs 4 gauge, and it deals damage to your opponent equal to the amount of times they've attacked plus 2, and once again, all the stuff that prevents them from reviving and all that stuff. Anyway, hope you guys liked the video. Subscribe to TBI for more Buddyfight content. We'll be out with more deck profiles for Driven to Disorder, and we will definitely have a lot of match videos. Anyway, bye guys.